Before he even got to Helsinki, President Trump had managed to send the world's political and media establishments into meltdown. Yes, it was a vintage week for unthinking anti-Trump bigotry and hate, focusing, as usual, on style, not substance, and ignoring, as usual, actual facts in favor of condescending and uninformed contempt for Donald Trump, his supporters, and his agenda. So, as a public service, let's fact-check the pearl-clutching chorus of elitist disapproval of the president's European disrupt-orama. The elitists said he weakened NATO. Fact. As the NATO Secretary General himself said repeatedly, it was pressure from the president that got NATO members to cough up more cash. On top of that, President Trump has increased America's military contribution compared to President Obama. So, more money from NATO members and more military resources from America. That is obviously strengthening NATO, not weakening it. Idiots. Next, the elitists said President Trump was wrong to take Angela Merkel to task over her pipeline deal with Russia. But the deal is real and really bad. In fact, we first said so right here on this show in Swamp Watch months ago. Why is the foreign policy establishment more upset about President Trump pointing this out than about the substance of the pipeline deal itself, something that really does undermine NATO? Because they're blinded by their hatred of Trump. Idiots. Then there's Brexit. The president was attacked for criticizing Theresa May's Brexit plan. But what he said about her plan was true. What Theresa May said, standing right next to the president, was false. Now they're up in arms that he called the EU a foe. But it is a foe on trade, exactly as the president said, and not just a foe of America. The EU's trade barriers keep Africa trapped in poverty, preventing some of the world's poorest countries from improving their economies by selling products in Europe. We'll have more on the EU and Brexit later in the show. And finally, the elitists' favorite topic, Russia. First, they were obsessed about whether President Trump would soften America's stand on Russia's invasion of Crimea. But how could he soften it? President Obama's attitude to Putin over Crimea was softer than a melting ice cream in the summer sun. He even admitted it himself. Look what he told The Atlantic in 2016. If there is somebody in this town that would claim that we would consider going to war with Russia over Crimea and eastern Ukraine, they should speak up and be very clear about it. The idea that talking tough or engaging in some military action that is tangential to that particular area is somehow going to influence the decision-making of Russia or China is contrary to all the evidence we've seen over the last 50 years. And then, the new Mueller indictments caused a new bout of Trump-Russia collusionitis. But let's fact-check those pompous pontificators on the Sunday shows this morning. Fact, the Obama administration was fully aware of Russia's election hacking and did practically nothing about it. Fact, the Trump administration has been much tougher on Putin than Obama ever was, not just with tougher sanctions, but hitting them where it really hurts, energy policy. And fact, the biggest and most dangerous foreign government hacking of America is being done by China. For decades, previous administrations, backed by the idiots in the foreign policy establishment, have sucked up to China. With President Trump, finally, we're hitting back. But the same elitists who want him to unleash hell on Russia are criticizing him for standing up to China, even though China is a much bigger threat to America. I mean, really? I've used the word idiots a few times tonight, and I think you can see why. Of course, I don't mean that disrespectfully, but in the Nassim Taleb sense, the brilliant Black Swan author coined the phrase IYI, intellectual yet idiot, to describe elitist groupthink. Well, we've had a bucket full of it this week, with more to come, no doubt, from the general direction of Helsinki, Finland. Tell me what you think of all that at NextRevFNC and at Steve Hilton X. And don't forget to pre-order your copy of my new book, Positive Populism, Revolutionary Ideas to Rebuild Economic Security, Family and Community in America. You can do that at positivepopulism.org.